Hey ladies, so this is a continuation of my video from yesterday where I talked about immature men in the Black community and how they're holding the community back, specifically in regards to Klay Thompson and Megan Thee Stallion and people just being outraged, more so Black men being outraged about who he's dating. And I want to discuss this in a little bit more detail because there's a certain group of men that are not affected by the male loneliness epidemic, and those are the men who value women, men who actually see worth in women, men who know women's intrinsic value. They always will have a leg up in life because they will have a literal source of creation in their back pocket. They will have one of the closest things to God ever at their disposal. So I want to talk about the male loneliness epidemic and how this is a direct reflection of men on social media spewing their hatred, the podcast bros and the people who idolize podcast bros, and how this is literally affecting the younger generations of men that are growing up. See, my generation, I'm a late 90s baby, so I'm still in my 20s. So I grew up in an era where, when we were kids, for the most part, we were not heavily on social media. We were being raised by our parents, not by the internet, not by a podcast brother or some type of red pillar on social media. But nowadays, unfortunately, a lot of the boys and men who are suffering from the male loneliness epidemic were raised by the internet. Even though some of them did have dads in their lives, we see that even men who have fathers in their lives, like Cam Newton's parents have been married for, I think, north of 30 years, and he still has trouble with loving one woman, being dedicated to one woman, seeing the value in marriage, seeing the value in being monogamous. So, what that tells me is there are a lot of outside influences and a lot of noise that unfortunately some men have fallen victim to. And it really does take a strong willed person, specifically a strong willed man, to not be swayed by society, by trends, by social media, by what's popular. And it really does take a certain type of man, a certain level and caliber of man to resist what they're being told they should be pursuing. The reason why Russell Wilson, Ciara's husband, is hated so much is because he does not care about what his peers think. Think about when he first got with Ciara. Ciara was fresh out of a relationship with Future. We all know Future's track record. Her leaving him alone was a huge deal back then because a lot of people viewed him as the prize. He was this really poppin' rapper, who, when he got with her, his brand sort of exploded a lot more. And I think that a lot of people thought, like, okay, this is who she should be with. They're both from Atlanta. It kind of works. And then when it didn't work anymore and she moved around, she had her baby with him and left him alone and decided to move on to Russell Wilson. It was this shock of the contrast. The reason why people were shocked is because Russell Wilson is completely different from Future. Future is the type of guy who you have fun with. When you're young and you're not thinking and you want to live in the fast life and you want to have a rush, right? And you want to live a certain type of lifestyle, you date a guy like Future because he's into fast money. The music industry, we all know the stigma and the things that come with that. Drugs and alcohol and partying, strip club, it's all fast life. It's fast, glamorous, glitz and glamour, right? And there's the frills of it, but there's also the very scary aspects of it and the aspects of it that do not nurture healthy monogamous relationships. And someone like Ciara, who's a career woman, she's an entertainer, she's beautiful, she's successful, she had her head on straight. She obviously knew that it wasn't gonna behoove her to stay in that situation. So when she left and got with Russell, Russell is the complete opposite of Future. He is level-headed, he's not flashy, he's not in the entertainment industry. He is an athlete, and people do have their feelings about athletes, but he stands out from the rest because he comes from a two-parent household. He has a healthy relationship with his mother. He's kind. He's soft-spoken for the most part, and he doesn't have a track record. So when you go, and this is the problem with our community, when she went to Russell, it was like, whoa, you're making a very clear and loud statement that you are no longer into men like Future. And I think men like Future were offended. Let's be real. Men like Future were disappointed. They kind of felt like, and I remember because it was all over social media, people would not stop talking about it, specifically like the Dusties, right? They were hurt by Ciara's choice to remove herself from Future. And it's like, why are you hurt? Why are you bothered? Why do you care? Are you uncomfortable that this gorgeous woman who gave a man a chance who she shouldn't have given a chance to was smart enough to wisen up and remove herself before it got too sticky? What are you mad about? Are you mad that her decision making reflects poorly on Future? Her decision making to drop him and go with Russell reflects poorly on Future? Do you feel intimidated by men who seem like simps to you or seem like lames to you? I can't even tell you all how many times I saw people like Joe Budden and like other entertainers and rappers and people in the industry talking so badly about Russell Wilson and saying how he's lame and he's a square and oh, she doesn't really like him. And it's just like, why can't women grow from the type that they thought they wanted and move on to what is better for them? It's like the community we come from wants us to stay stuck, wants us to perpetuate cycles of toxic, broken families and single motherhood. It was almost like these men in our community, whether rich or dusty, had an opinion about Ciara choosing Russell. And it's again because Russell is completely different. He is a good guy. And they have been brought up to believe that good guys finish last. When you are a good guy, when you have a clean record, when you haven't been in and out of jail, when you don't have a bunch of baby mamas, when you're not problematic, you don't put your hands on women, you don't have addiction problems, they're taught that those men finish last. So because of their conditioning from a young age and from boyhood, they advert from being a good guy because they don't think that's what gets them women. They want access. All the things that men do really just comes back down to women. It comes back down to the kitty. Their intentions for bossing up and getting rich, women. I'm telling you. So because they were told you're not going to get any kitty if you're a nice guy, they all just decided, yeah, I'm going to go a different route. And while I will say, when you are young and you're dealing with a lot of young, naive little girls who can sometimes be pygmies or not know themselves yet, they may have low self-esteem, that bullshit might work. Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you that. Maybe when you were 19 to 22, that bullshit might have worked. But try that on a grown woman who's learned herself, who knows herself. It's not working. And that is why we are seeing this male loneliness epidemic, ladies. We are seeing the after effects of men who have decided to not be good guys. So by the time they're 25 and, they're deciding finally, like, hey, maybe I do want to settle down, or maybe I do need to slow it down and take it seriously, you've already destroyed your potential love interest. So now you're older now and you're trying to backtrack and backpedal. Those women are over you. Those women have learned how to live without you. They've learned to survive without you, raise their kid without you. And even if you didn't impregnate the women in your past, they probably have learned so much about themselves, what they like and do not like, and realize that you are on the list of what they do not like. And so you're trying to spin the block. Their type has changed. You no longer have access. And that's something I noticed as I moved into my mid to late 20s, is that the guys who I would have given access to me in my early 20s could never even breathe in my direction now. I'm in a relationship, a happy one, but there are people who have obviously tried. They've spun the block. I'm sorry, no. The person who I was back then, I have left that part of my life. And this is why I think a lot of men and boys were upset when Ciara left Future, because they were realizing, oh my goodness, this beautiful, gorgeous woman who has it all consciously chose not to go for the guy who they were told is the it guy. You know, he gets all the women. He has the best rap records. He is famous and flashy and he lives a fast life. You know, they thought that this man was someone who they should be looking up to and aspiring to be. Whole time he got left and was bitter about it for years. So, you know, fast forward to now, we have someone like Klay Thompson who plays in the NBA dating Meg the Stallion, in same situation. People calling him a simp, people making think pieces about him and Megan the Stallion and how it's not going to last and how they're not going to work. People are mad. People are mad boots because this man, unlike his peers, because we all know a lot of basketball players are whores, okay? Unlike his peers, he has chosen to settle down. He has chosen to be publicly, openly dating this beautiful woman who, again, has her career. She's on her purpose. She's doing great things. She's stunning. She has a great body. Everyone knows her and loves her for the most part. And they're mad because the men that she probably used to choose reflect Dusties, and the men that she's choosing now are wealthy and they have a healthier mindset and they come from two-parent households and they have a lot more going for them than just, oh, I rap and I sip lean and look at my watches, look at my chain, I FB words all day. You know, that gets old after a while. When you, again, when your frontal lobe develops, the things you used to like, the things that used to get you excited, no longer work anymore. And that's the problem. A lot of men are still stuck in their pre-development years. They have not matured past their frontal lobe developing. While all the other women who are in their mid to late 20s are waking up and realizing, oh my God, like I don't have forever to get my life together. I need to change my ways. I need to change my type. I can't keep doing the same things and expecting different results. They're coming up off of these men who they used to be clinging to, and these men are losing their minds because they don't have access anymore. So that's why we're seeing all these podcast bros and all these guys who are yelling into cameras with receding hairlines because they're stressed out. They're not getting any kitty. They're not getting any relief unless it's to their hand. And it's actually unfortunate. But you know what? If they were smart, if they use their brain, what they would do is they would say, what is Russell Wilson doing? What did Russell Wilson do to get Ciara? What did Klay Thompson do to lock down someone like Meg the Stallion? They would actually take notes and actually try to like emulate the good qualities of these men who are succeeding with women, as opposed to being like, ew, girls, yuck, girls have cooties. You know, it's like, how old are we? Start to learn from the men who you perceive to be doing better than you in the ladies department, and maybe you'll start getting some ladies. Clearly, talking to women like they're men is not working. Putting your hands on women is not working. Flashing money and jewelry and cars and possessions are not working for women anymore. That comes a dime a dozen. We don't care anymore. Women do not care about superficial crap anymore. And I'm talking about real women, good women who you would want to raise your kids and who you would want to have as a life partner. Do not care about these superficial, basic things. They care about your soul, your integrity, your heart, your morals, and your mental. And if you don't have any of those things, you can forget about having someone like Ciara, who has their heads on straight, they're ambitious, they're career women, and they're also beautiful and they're go-getters. You can't have access to women of that caliber thinking like a Dusty who still lives in his mom's basement. So I hope this helps some people who are still having confusion about why they're suffering from the male loneliness epidemic. And I hope this also opens some ladies and young girls' eyes to realize that you need to change your type. If you're still into men who aren't giving you anything in return for your attention, for your affection, for your love, who aren't pouring into you how you pour into them, who are leading with material things and material possessions, but they're bankrupt mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, you are doing something wrong. And it's time to go back to the drawing board and reevaluate your priorities and your type. So, ladies, drop down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to have a conversation down below. I'll also be leaving my email in the description box so you can share your stories with me there as well. Have a lovely day, ladies.
Trevon Boykin. He's a former NFL quarterback. This guy was invited to Russell Wilson and Ciara's home for Thanksgiving. He shows up, he eats their food, he drinks their drink, he enjoys the environment. I'm sure he watched a little television, got a little entertainment out of it. And then he turned around and went on a podcast and called the experience weird because none of Russell's family was around. He also talked about Little Future, saying Little Future was bad, it's a little badass Little Future. And he talked about the experience where, people take turns around the table saying what they're thankful for. And he never did say what Little Future said he was thankful for, but he described Little Future as being a spoiled brat, one who was acutely aware of the nepotism that he have and his lineage, being born into a family of celebrities, been born by celebrity parents, and then also now having a stepfather who is a celebrity, right? So he jumped on the podcast and was talking about how weird it was. He was saying that Russell's mother wasn't there, his sister wasn't there, and he figured that anyone with money like Russell Wilson would fly his whole family in. He's like, yeah, I'm from the hood, I'm from the streets or whatever. He said the ghetto, and we fly home. Whoever got the money, fly the whole family in, and whoop whoop whoop, and all this kind of stuff. And I just thought that was really moist. I thought that was really moist of him, because when you allow somebody into your home, that's your private space. That is your private space. And anytime somebody welcomes you into their home, you should be thankful. And you should also protect that energy and that experience. So whatever you see in them people's house, you should maintain some discretion about. Okay, I'm not saying that, if you want to say something about it, if you ain't got something nice to say, don't say nothing at all, right? But to walk around those people's house, to sit at that table and eat their food and smile and laugh, and I'm sure you hugged at least one family member, that's kind of snake-like. That's like a snake to me.